Hello, Kathryn. Hi, how are you? Thank you so much for joining me.
Donna, nice to see you.
Thanks for joining me, and thank you for agreeing to do this. There are so many families out there that are struggling with ADHD and symptoms that fall under that spectrum. And I think when I found relief from those symptoms with my son, I just wanted to shout it from the rooftops because it doesn't need to be hard for the families out there, and a lot of people just don't know there are other solutions that can help. So I really appreciate you sharing your story today. What's your family's background story?
Well, we have three kids, and my son Liam is the middle. He has an older and younger sister. Um, he's always been a very active, active little kid, and it was probably around the age of like 5 or 6 where my husband and I started thinking, he's where his older sister is doing X, Y, and Z, struggles in school and struggles interacting with peers in a um, and that began our journey of trying to
Mm.
figure out his unique personality and all that we could do to get to know him and support him in that way.
Yeah, no, that's really it's really common. My son was that really active little boy as well. And it can put especially when you've got girls on either side. I can imagine the difference between the dynamic difference between the boys and the girls, and going, this looks a little bit different than what we're used to.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Um, yes.
So what were the main problems that you were really trying to solve with him?
I'm pausing just for a second because I think in the beginning, the level of like how much dysregulation was occurring within our family.
Mm-hmm.
It was this like slow, insidious, it just kept getting it felt like it kept getting more intense. It felt like school was becoming really hard. It felt like the peace in our house was disrupted.
Mm.
It felt contentious between my husband and I about how to approach it. So I feel like in the beginning, it was how can we restore some sense of just rhythm and less arguing and
Mm-hmm.
more peace?
More peace. Yeah. Definitely for me as well, as it was really trying to find that peace and balance. And I know that is, a really common thing when we're struggling with some of those symptoms. Was the problem sort of affecting you guys on a daily basis?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. But hindsight and perspective, right? When you're in the trenches, um, you're just doing your living. So,
Yeah.
but now that he's now that we are where we are in the journey, because it's a journey, and he's
Yep.
13 now, and there's still lots of changes in the moment, and there will be along the way. I can see how far we have come as a family, and he as the person who's really been my partner in this.
Yeah, definitely. So, before deciding to work with me, what other sort of things had you tried?
Many. And I want to say, like, I think I'm not dismissing where we had
Mm-hmm.
tried. The food changes were incredible. But one of the things that first attracted me to your program was the holistic mindset, because
Yeah,
it wasn't like, oh, food or nothing, or,
yeah.
it was, this is, we should all use all of the resources we have. So what we had tried was he was on a stimulant medication and he was on an anti-anxiety medication, behavior therapy,
Yeah.
special ed resources at school. He got an IEP and a developmental pediatrician.
Yep. Yep. So yeah, just trying to get all those resources to help him. And, I sort of feel sometimes it's like you try this and you try this and you go with what, the direction you're told by your doctor. And sometimes, that can be great for some families, which is awesome. And but for others, it can be a nightmare like it was for us. And but somehow you ended up like finding me. And so I do want to ask, why did you choose to work with me and my team?
Well, I had been along the journey, keep getting seeing articles and being introduced to the connection of food and the microbiome and
Gut brain
the
connection.
neurologic
Yep.
influence that food has on our body. And even though the other resources were very helpful, I didn't feel like we were far enough with the improvement. I thought we had a way to go. So it was actually, I was about to do an IEP meeting with Liam's team, and I was going through all of the reports and literature that I had accumulated for his file. And again, here pops up food and how kiddos, especially who are neurodiverse, there's a lot of therapy with food. And I said to myself, okay, how many times do I have to see this, and be exposed to it? It was so I did some research and I read all about your program online.
Yep.
And I was really motivated because it was the one facet that I had not fully investigated. So I felt for Liam, he deserved it.
Yeah. I love that. I love, it's that decision that trying to, because it is a commitment. And, in our own minds, we need to be comfortable with that commitment as well. But really at the end of the day, like our kids do deserve it. And, if it doesn't work, that's okay. But we need to try to do whatever we can to help them thrive. I was actually just before we came on, I was just being interviewed on someone else's podcast. And, for me, just like how far we've come, how far all the families that I work with have come, I think the biggest thing is like we want to help our children's body be optimized to allow them to embrace their superpowers. And I think that for me is really like where we want to get to as parents. I don't know if that's the same for you, but I thought that, when I said that, I hadn't really sort of said it in that way before. It sort of like clicked in my mind to go, that's what we're doing. We are making sure that their bodies are optimized, their brains are optimized, so they can embrace their superpowers in life.
Absolutely. So they can feel secure and safe and peace in their own bodies.
Yeah.
I feel as if these kids have a lot of challenges that they endure every single day.
Yeah.
And on the outside, spending time with them, oftentimes it's just the challenging behaviors that they get noticed for. They have had to develop so many coping strategies to try to fit in to this narrow little mold. They're quite impressive, our children.
They sure are. They sure are. And so, doing a lot of this stuff helps them really embrace that.
Yes.
Because, it is embracing those superpowers, and those superpowers are different for every child. Can I ask, what reservations did you have before sort of signing up with me or, deciding to work with me?
Well, I knew what a commitment it was going to be, and I guess my maybe myself, like, can I actually execute this? And I was with for Liam, he got it in small little chunks of information how it was going to be. He didn't realize, like, guess what, bud? I'm going to change everything that you eat. It was a little bit of a softer, as every parent knows how to kind
Yeah.
of introduce to their child. But yeah, I I took a few days actually of like mental preparation before we started, of
Yeah.
just like, okay, this is going to be a change. It's going to be uncomfortable, but I know why I'm doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And of all the therapies that we had been introduced to and receiving, this just feels the most, it's best for his body.
Mm-hmm.
I was very affirmed in the philosophy of it.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And so, I think the biggest question is what benefits have you seen and what benefits has he seen since working with me?
He's seen a lot of benefits. He's seen a lot of benefits. And he had a lot of sensitivities.
Yep.
He, I would say the number one benefit that Liam has experienced is that piece that it's hard to quantify. There's all these little parts. He is
Mm.
articulating himself more. He's expressing his feelings more. He's able to go to school and organize himself. He still needs a lot of support. He still needs all the executive functioning coaching, and
Mm-hmm.
he does go to a school for kiddos with dyslexia. However, he's going through the day. He's managing his homework. He's on a basketball team. He's interacting with friends and family independently from me needing to kind of negotiate situations for him. He's knowing what food feels like in his body when it feels not okay. He can recognize that, which at as he's approaching adolescence, I'm really handing the baton to him
Mm-hmm.
and asking him to carry it. I'm not going to be cooking his food for him.
Yeah.
All right, that's the goal of all this, right? That he's
Totally.
gonna go on and that he will understand what choices make what impacts on his body.
Yeah. And I think that's the biggest thing that we can teach our children, especially as they get older, because they are going to get older. They are going to make their own decisions. They need to know how that makes their body feel, and I think that the fact that he can do that at such a young age. If my parents had taught me that skill in my teenage years, like I probably would have had a completely different years in my 20s because I would have really understand how certain things made me feel in our body. And it's such an amazing skill to teach their kids, but you can't really do it until you make some of these changes and then really sort of discuss how does that make feel in your body? Do you like that feeling? Because they're not just going to learn it on their own. They need to actually, those conversations need to be had. So I think that's amazing that you've taught him that. And so, I know that with dyslexia, obviously it brings in other challenges in learning and things like that. But the fact that he can go to school and manage his day and his homework, like that's huge. That's huge, especially for a kiddo with ADHD, and the emotions, to be able to handle those emotions and see when he is feeling not in control. So what does that look like for him?
When he is starting to feel dysregulated,
Yeah.
he is able to identify it and use coping strategies,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so here's like where the holistic approach is so critical
Yeah.
because I mean, parenting has to be tailored to the situation. The
Yeah.
environment needs to be tailored to the situation so that the child can understand, okay, what are my options? Like he learned it, but he wasn't able to
Execute
implement.
it. Yeah.
And
And you
it's
know
the
why?
integration now.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing, I think, because what we're doing in this approach is we're reducing inflammation in the body so they can implement. I get from people all the time, oh, is chiropractic care good, or is therapy good? And I say that these are all parts of the puzzle. These are all parts of the puzzle, but none of those can actually work to their benefit until the body is able to receive it properly. And when our kids are in a state of inflammation, which he was, then those therapies, they can't work, because it's not normal to have a meltdown, it's not normal to have a tantrum. That's the body telling us that the body's in a state of inflammation. And so when we've reduced that for him, all of these other things can start to fall into place. And it's amazing to watch.
I know the emotional stability, I would say, is the biggest. Yes, just
Yeah.
what you're describing. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it definitely is. And so I'm curious because, I heard you say that, you were doing this as a whole family. What's that look like for you? I mean, how do you feel?
Oh, I feel good. I have always been a very healthy eater, and there
Yes.
are times in life, right, where you can kind of steer in the other direction. When we started this program, we had steered in the other direction, so it felt really good to come back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I had never been gluten free. I
Mm-hmm.
have been dairy free for since I was 35. Um, I feel good. I feel a lot of the benefits Liam feels.
Yeah.
His sisters have had a harder time.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where, this is not I don't know, my way of approaching this was try to be a little fluid with expectations and people's. I found the harder I did this, right? Like it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
His little sister is not gluten or dairy free. His older sister tries very hard.
Yeah.
At home, that's how we eat.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you definitely don't need to be a short order cook. That is what I teach the families that I work with, for sure. Looking back, what advice would you have for other families wanting to embark on this journey?
I would say this could be one of the most important steps you take. We know the biology behind it, because if you don't have if the inflammation is high, then all the wraparound therapies are going to be less effective, if effective at all. But this is such a core thing that you can take with you your whole life. And
Mm,
it's another aspect that I really am attracted to from food therapy is that it takes away the power from it empowers the individual, right?
hmm.
It's not like this, like, oh, the doctor's telling you how to do it and the so-and-so is
Yeah.
telling you how to do it. You can actually make yourself feel good.
Yeah. You've got full control. You are the one but also, like, when we've got the younger kids, you're the one that's helping your child. You're the one that is making those decisions to take your child's care into your own hands.
Yeah,
And it is life changing. And I'm not just saying that because this is, what I do, but I look back, and I don't know if this is the case for you, but I look back to the beginning of our journey, and I am such a different person than I was back then. And I would not change anything for the world.
I agree. Saying that you're just changing your food is a very, very, there's just the tip of the iceberg.
It's just the tip of the
Because
iceberg. Yes.
I mean, the more you learn, this is a very
Yeah.
rich environment
Yeah.
to be, and it's just so beautiful that it's all health centered.
Yep. I know. I know. It is beautiful. And it's like, it's changing your mindset about how you live. It's not, it like when people say, oh, well, I'm just going to go off and go on a gluten-free, dairy-free diet. That's just such a small
Yeah.
component of it.
Yeah.
And, when you start to learn the different layers and everything underneath and how the body works and why certain things make us feel certain ways, you can't unlearn that information. And it is life changing. So any parting words, Kathryn, for, listeners out there, or, just general parting words?
It's not as hard as it seems at first. Just
Yeah.
just be gentle with yourself and have humor in it. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
because there's going to be things that are not perfect, but
Yep.
it's so worth it.
It's so worth it. Love it. Love it. Well, thank you so much, Kathryn. I really, really appreciate your time today. And I look forward to talking to you soon.
Take care.